Do you ever find that your nerves completely take over when you perform? You think you're absolutely fine and then suddenly, whoomph, they come in and blow it all to smithereens. Or maybe they build up gradually to a crescendo of noise in your head. If so, this episode is for you. Now, you might find that it takes a different direction to the one you expect it to take, because what I'm about to talk about is not what most performance coaches talk about. So let me start by asking you two questions. One, do you respect yourself as a performer? And number two, are you kind to yourself as a performer and when you perform? In the last episode, I spoke about Liz's transformation and the way she regained her confidence and started performing again with even more joy than before. Apologies for the gap of the week. I had COVID last week, as a friend of mine said. So old school, but I'm among the men right now. And so here is what I promised, which was the biggest factor in Liz's transformation. And it wasn't just the biggest factor in Liz's transformation back to confidence. It was also the biggest factor in my transformation, not just back to confidence, but actually to a better, more robust, more fulfilling, wider ranging confidence than I have ever had in my life. Hi, I'm Hattie Volker, founder of Find Your True Voice, and I'm passionate about helping people find confidence in their performing, not only because I know it's totally possible, but because I think the more I can encourage people to express what they have to offer, the better the world will be. So if you have a difficulty finding confidence to put yourself out there, or you think there's another level that you want to get to, just email me at hattie@findyourtruevoice.co.uk. That's HATTIE at findyourtruevoice.co.uk. Tell me your story, tell me your struggles, and I will reply personally to you, and usually quite quickly, with a strategy for how you can start to make those changes. So let's talk about those questions I asked. Do you treat yourself with respect? Do you respect yourself as a performer? And I suspect the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no, or possibly for some of you, always no. And the other one is, do you treat yourself with kindness? Now, what's the reason I'm asking these questions? Well, they play a much bigger role in your ability as a performer and your skills as a performer than you might suspect. And when I talk about the strategy that had the biggest impact both for Liz and for me and for so many of my clients, it is exactly that. It's treating yourself with kindness and respect. Now, I suspect when you hear me say that, one of three thoughts, or maybe all of these three thoughts, comes up for you. The first one is, yeah, I know that sounds good, but I've been trying for years to treat myself with kindness and respect, but it's just not possible for me to do. It's something in my personality. That's number one. And that kind of feeds into number two, because number two is, I get the importance of kindness and respect, but it's not as important as accuracy, because actually I know that if I start to get my skill set up, if I start to nail my vocal technique, if I nail my strategy, nail my script, then I can start to treat myself with kindness and respect. It's actually more important to get accuracy than treat yourself kindly, because treating yourself kindly isn't that effective. And number three, and this is what I hear so often, is you don't understand. I know that kindness and respect is really important, but for me it doesn't work. For me, I know from years of experience that the only thing that works is a kick up the backside. I have to bully myself because otherwise I don't get my ass into gear. So what I want to do is to dive into each of these thoughts. So if you recognize one or all three of them, this episode really is for you. So let's take a look at thought number one. Those of you that think that kindness and respect sound like a good idea, but you've never been able to achieve it. Firstly, I want to make a distinction between kindness and indulgence or smothering or giving up. Because often we think, oh, do you know what? I'm just not going to do it today. Or maybe I just wasn't cut out for this role, for this job, to be a singer, to be a performer. Maybe it's just not my thing, or I'll do it tomorrow. And we view that as treating ourselves kindly, giving ourselves a break. However, it really isn't. It's actually patronizing us. It's you patronizing yourself, because that's not what I mean by kindness. What I mean by kindness is making conscious choices, aware of the repercussions of all of them, and willing to take on the consequences of those choices. When I talk about kindness, it's not about giving yourself permission to stay in bed, give up, stop practicing, not prepare. It's about those conscious choices and making those with kindness, without rudeness, without being a bully, without underestimating your capabilities. Oh, you're just not good enough, which is a really pernicious, nasty way to insult yourself. To actually treat yourself with kindness and respect, as you would do a friend you respect. And sometimes I talk about how you would treat a child. I'm cautious about saying that because for me, sometimes we patronize children. So what I'm talking about today is treating yourself as you would someone you really respect and like. Because I think we behave differently then. So once you understand that kindness isn't that giving up, not bothering, letting yourself off the hook type of smothering, patronizing attitude, as I might say, then we can take a look at how you treat yourself with kindness, how you learn to do that. And it's essentially the same learning curve as it would be for any other process. And the start of that is conscious incompetence. And that is learning exactly how bad you are at treating yourself with kindness and respect. And that means tuning into that inner voice, tuning in and hearing exactly how you talk to yourself. Because even if you realize you're not very nice to yourself, you probably don't realize how often you say mean things and how mean those things are. And if you start to hear that, and imagine saying that to somebody else you really respect and look up to, and think how it would make them feel, you can start to realize the impact it has on you. So that's stage one, moving from unconscious incompetence to the next stage, which is conscious incompetence. You are aware of what you are doing that is harmful and not useful to you. The next phase is to move into conscious competence, which is where you start deliberately treating yourself with kindness and respect. Now, often I describe this as like hugging a teenager. And if you've got teenagers, you'll understand what I mean by this. When you first hug a teenager, it feels awkward. They don't want to do it. Not with every teenager, but with a lot of teenagers. But the more you do it, the more comfortable it feels and the more they relax into it. When we're kind to ourselves, we're so unused to being kind to ourselves. It feels wrong and almost dangerous because we worry about what might happen. We worry if we're kind to ourselves, will we just sit on the sofa all day? But it gets easier. The more you do it, the more comfortable and warm, and you start to feel the benefits of that kindness. Now, I've done a lot of podcasts and blogs about the benefits of this kindness. And when you start to layer on that kindness, and as I said, this pragmatic kindness, this wise, respectful kindness, whereas, yes, you can stay on the sofa today, or you can practice and prepare. Which do you want to do? Not, you need to prepare now, you idiot, if you don't, or, oh, don't worry about it, you can do it tomorrow. Making a conscious choice. What is it you choose to do? And doing that with kindness. The more you practice that, the more that becomes your default way of thinking about it. Because the interesting thing is, if your default at the moment is to be really harsh to yourself, that is what you will be projecting onto your audience. You will be imagining that your audience is as harsh on you as you are, which causes you to pull away from your audience and then be judgmental of them for being so mean and nasty while you're projecting these mean and nasty thoughts. When you start to change your default attitude to yourself, you start to change what you believe other people are by default thinking of you. Now, you are more likely to be right because mostly people are kind. Sometimes they're not. That is absolutely true. But you're more likely to be right when you assume people are kind. And also, you're more likely then to relax in front of them. So not only do you start to change how you feel because of the way you treat yourself, but you also start to change the way you feel because of the way you think other people are thinking about you. Because what you're doing here is actually building a new neural pathway. You are, and look this up because myelination of neurons is fascinating. You are myelinating a neuron, and when you use a neuron, you add myelin to it. And when you add myelin to a neuron, it means you're more likely to use that neural pathway next time. So you are building this, and that takes effort, and it takes hard work, and it takes repetition. But the more you do it, as I say, the more it will end up being your default way of thinking and talking to yourself. And as it becomes your default, as it becomes your new unconscious way of behaving, you will find, as I say, more and more you will project these lovely thoughts onto your audience, so feel more relaxed in front of your audience. But it will also impact how you prepare. Because instead of bullying yourself to prepare, you will be talking kindly to yourself and allowing yourself to make conscious choices. Do I want to do this, or do I want to do that? Do I want to sit on the sofa and not prepare and end up tomorrow unprepared? Or do I want to prepare and feel ready for tomorrow? And funnily enough, you will be surprised at how often you choose the positive way of moving forward. And then you're doing it with kindness and consciously, and you get a reward for that. So not only do you feel more comfortable when you're performing, but you feel more comfortable in preparation, which means you do more, which means you actually increase your skill set and your ability because you're just working harder. But it doesn't feel like work because you're doing it with kindness and wisdom and respect. So that's dealing with thought number one. Thought number two is the idea that it's more important to get things right. And that once you get things right, then you'll relax and you'll be more confident, and then you'll talk to yourself nicely, because actually the talking to yourself horribly comes out of the anxiety. Well, this isn't true. And you'll have heard when I'm discussing thought number one, why this might be so. But the reason people think that it is more important to get things right is that they think they'll feel safe once they do. And yes, you might feel safer when you get accuracy, but there's also a brittleness to it. And it's also an unachievable aim. If perfection is your aim, you will never get there. And think about it this way. Would you rather watch a performer who was anxious and accurate, or one who was relaxed and connected and made the occasional mistake? You might not even notice their mistakes, is my argument, because so often I've seen that. The more relaxed the performer, the more forgiving the audience, because we'd far rather have a connected performance than a really anxious one. And the irony is that actually when you're more anxious, you're more likely to make a mistake, and when you're more relaxed, you're less likely to make a mistake. So being relaxed means that you are going to actually probably increase your ability to show your skills. So if you're aiming for accuracy ahead of kindness, I would say you have it the wrong way around. Partly because, as I said before, you work harder when you're kind to yourself because it's a nicer process. And also because you reduce your anxiety when you're kind, which means you're less likely to make a mistake. So instead of prioritizing accuracy, prioritize kindness and just keep working at it. And the idea that the kindness can happen once you've got the accuracy is also wrong, because this bad treatment doesn't go away when you get better, because there's always something you can do better. So if your habit is to treat yourself unkindly, you will continue to treat yourself unkindly, even when you improve, because it has become your default way of behaving. When you unpick that default and start treating yourself with kindness, your skill set will improve, your accuracy will actually improve, and the whole thing starts to go into this upward spiral. And that brings me to the final thought number 3. And that is, bullying works for me. Now, as I say, I can't tell you how many people have told me this over the years. You don't understand, I'm different. And I'm like, I love you, you're beautiful, you're unique, and you're special, and you're absolutely boringly normal when it comes to the fact that if you treat yourself unkindly, it will have a negative impact on your self-esteem. Sorry, it's a fact. Treating yourself, bullying yourself will negatively impact your self-esteem. And the more you do it, the worse it gets. If you imagine how when you feel when other people say mean things to you, if you're the one saying mean things to yourself, then you are always there. It's incessant. It's never ending. It just goes on and on and on. You are taking the bully with you wherever you go. And just think about the impact that has on your self-esteem. And it might start to make sense why you've got yourself into a knot over the particular thing that you are in a knot about. The reason people think bullying works, often as not, is that they haven't tried wise, respectful kindness. They might have tried indulgence, but they don't trust that kindness works. They are afraid that if they try kindness, they will end up sitting on the sofa watching Netflix. And that simply isn't true. But it is a big step. It feels like a huge risk to step into kindness. And they also think it works because quite often what happens with bullying is that we bully ourselves all the time. But with procrastination or putting something off, we'll put something off because we're worried about doing it badly. And then suddenly there's a changing point where we go from worrying about us doing it badly to worrying about not actually getting it done. And then we start getting things done. And we think that's because we've finally done the bullying enough and we've got our asses into gear. But what's actually happened is the fear has just switched from one focus to another. The fear had been putting the brakes on, and now the fear is putting the accelerator on. But it's still not good for your self-esteem. And if you hadn't had the fear putting the brakes on to start off with the bullying and saying you've got to do this well, you've got to do this right, you've got to nail it, you've got to do a good job of this, then you probably would have started earlier and enjoyed doing it anyway. So the bullying is actually the thing that's putting the brakes on. It's not the thing that gets you going. The fear is the thing that gets you going because you suddenly think, oh my goodness, I've got to get this done. And you might give up at that point, or you might just get on and get it done. But I tell you, it won't be fun. Or maybe it will. Maybe when you get started, you think, oh, as I used to do, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I wish I'd started this earlier. And actually, you could have had more fun doing it because it actually takes courage to trust. It takes courage to be kind if it's not something you were used to doing, because you have no evidence. You might intellectually get why it works, but you have no real tangible evidence that it works. Whereas in your head, you have tangible evidence that the bullying has worked. Surely it's the bullying that has got you to where you are. Well, I would argue maybe it isn't, because I've achieved so much more since I've started being kind to myself than I ever did when I was bullying myself. And I achieved quite a lot when I was bullying myself. Trusting yourself and treating yourself with kindness takes guts. It takes courage, because it's somewhere you haven't been before. And it may be counter to everything that your teachers, your parents, your siblings, significant people in your life have taught you. You've got to take it seriously. You've got to work hard, or don't slack off. And all of those messages that we get, unpicking that can be hard work, but it is so rewarding, because not only does it make things more fun and enjoyable, it helps you let go of your nerves. And that is what is getting in your way right now. Your doubt, your anxiety, your nerves. And when you treat yourself with kindness, it reduces those nerves. It changes the way you think about your audience. It changes the way you think your audience is thinking about you. It changes the way you think about yourself and your worth and your value. And everything starts to feel better, which means the skill set you currently have, it's easier to show, and it's easier to build on that skill set because it's more enjoyable to do that. So that's the kindness advantage. When you treat yourself with kindness and respect, so many things will start to work better, and you'll create this upward spiral. Treat yourself with kindness. Not only will it make your life nicer, improve your self-esteem, but it will also improve your skill set and have you being better at what you do, because it will be easier to work on it and it will be easier to demonstrate it, because your nerves will not be sabotaging your performance. This is the thing that helped Liz transform. It is the thing that has transformed my life, and it is the thing that I teach day in, day out, that is transforming all the people I work with's lives. So go out, be kind and respectful, not kind and indulgent, but kind and respectful to yourself. Treat yourself as a wise, kind friend. And if you'd like some help with that, just ping me an email at hattie@findyourtruevoice.co.uk, and I will send you a reply. Tell me your story, and we will start working on a strategy as to how you can transform yourself and let go of your nerves. In the meantime, if there's one thing you do right now, it's start noticing how you treat yourself. Notice it, understand it, and you'll notice that things actually start to change. Next time I'll be talking about something a little bit different, so look out for next time. I'm Hattie Volker from Find Your True Voice. Thank you so much for listening.